What's good, everyone? It's Nigel here, Black Stakes Power. So, shoulder day has approached us, and this is me warming up as is essential. So I hope you guys are training well. I hope your training's going well. I hope you're making progress. I hope you're sticking to the plan. Consistency is key as always, so make sure you stay consistent if anything. So shoulder session. We started off predominantly using dumbbell on this session. We predominantly did this session using dumbbells, so I hope you enjoy. So after warming up, a few sets warming up, getting the blood flow into the shoulders, the biceps, the arms, etc. We jumped straight in at 40 kilos for 10 reps. Now this is typical of what I generally do. One thing I would say with training, guys, try not to overcomplicate your training. If it works, it works. Stick to it. Yes, change things up now and again to keep it fresh, to keep you motivated, whatever you need to do to stay motivated to go to the gym. Me personally, I don't need much motivation to go to the gym. I've been doing it for so long. It's not just part of who I am. It's part of my being, as you guys know. But I do understand and appreciate that some people need that motivation to stay in the gym. So whatever you need to do, please do that. And if that includes mixing up your training to keep you motivated, to keep it fresh, to challenge you, then do that. So yeah, having done the first sets of 40 for 10 reps, I believe, I then moved up 4 kilos or 2 kilos aside. I moved up to 42 kg dumbbells here. You have days in the gym where the weight feels heavier than some days, and I think today was one of those days for me. Maybe I didn't rest sufficiently the night before, but as you get older, like I say to you, a lot of you guys, you are more in tune with how your body operates and how you feel. And, whereas you could get away with probably not resting as much in your younger days, as you do get older, you realize that resting is makes a huge difference in terms of your strength and how you perform at the gym. So whether you're young or old, you should really prioritize rest, prioritize sleep as best as you can. Obviously, rest and recovery is, a huge part of your development, of your growth, of your strength, of your performance in this world of fitness, bodybuilding, etc. So yeah, nothing overly complicated. Seated dumbbell presses here. And then I moved on to the 44. So I kept, taking the weights up as best as I can. I don't think I managed to get 10 on the 44s here. It felt incredibly heavy. I think I managed 8. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, 8 is always a minimum of amount of reps I aim for. So I was fairly satisfied with what I got here. You can see me here struggling a bit, really pushing everything out on this rep here. This is where it's great to have a spotter, someone you're training with at the gym, because this would assist you, or that spotter should assist you in getting that weight up. So yeah, a spotter can be very, very useful in these circumstances. And having done the conventional dumbbell presses, we moved into these presses here. I believe these are commonly known as Arnie presses, made famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger, where you bring the front delts into the movement. So as you can see, the press is not just a conventional shoulder press. We bring it round to the front, making it slightly harder, turning it into a front delt and trap movement. It's a great exercise. I started off using 32 kilos. Obviously, having done the first sets, I'm a bit fatigued, so I had to drop the weight down. Irregardless, on this particular exercise, you would find it's a lot more to the movement, so the weight has to be slightly lower, or should be slightly lower than your conventional press. I mean, if you can go heavier, then go heavier. That's what I'm about. That's what it's all about, pushing yourself. So if you go heavier, go heavier. But I think you'd find, for the most part, for most people, this weight, you'd have to drop the weight down slightly, especially having done the conventional presses at the start. And again, we always tend to do 4 sets of a minimum of 8 reps. And in my head, so long as I get to 8 reps, everything else is a bonus. I'm normally got a targeted amount of reps in my head, whether that be 10 reps. But I'm always happy with a minimum of 8. As you can see me here struggling to get the final rep. Again, if I did have a spotter, that I may have been able to get an extra rep or an extra 2 reps. So yeah, if you have a good spotter, I mean a good spotter, most guys and girls are not really sure what they're doing when they're spotting. You see it in the gym all the time. It really does frustrate me when I see that. When you spot someone doing this exercise, all you simply have to do is support the elbows. Support the elbows. And sometimes the smallest of touch gets that weight up for you. It doesn't have to be anything overly dramatic, pushing the weight up for them. If you're doing that, then the weight's too heavy and you're not really gaining anything if someone's spotting you in that way by actually pushing the weight up. All you need is a slight touch a lot of the times, and you find that's normally enough for you to get the weight up. But yeah, find yourself a decent spotter. It really does help. Then we move on to dumbbell flies, seated dumbbell flies. You can't see it here properly, but my feet is up on the bench. It's 2 sidebars on the bench at the bottom. And the reason I'm putting my feet up is because it takes my feet off the ground. So if your feet's planted on the ground, you find that your legs come into play in this movement as well, because you're pressing your feet into the ground, and it's assisting in the lift. So if you could take your feet off the ground like I've done here, then it's predominantly shoulders. It will be predominantly shoulders when you do the exercise. So that's the idea. Taking your feet off the ground, putting it on the bars here. As you can see, if you have a bench with a bar like this, a lot of bench don't have this. It makes the movement, make it slightly harder if you are to do it this way. And that's what it's all about. You're trying to really push yourself here. No ego. You go to the gym to push yourself. And that's why I take my feet off the bench. Anyway, we move to dumbbell flies. Nothing overly complicated. Straight up and down, slight bent in the elbow. And yeah, these were difficult, having done the sets I did previously. So these are a mainstay in my shoulder day. It's a great exercise for building your traps and side delts as well. Good form is essential, as you can see, being executed here. And yeah, again, 4 sets for minimum of 8 reps. I stay consistent with this, guys. I stay consistent with this. If you're in tune with your body, you know that, or how hard. Essentially, you know how hard you're working. Your body tells you how hard you're working. If you're cheating yourself, then you're only cheating yourself. So do better. The idea is to push yourself every time you train. That's the only way you see growth. Like I've said on many of my previous videos, it's not complicated. You go to the gym, you push yourself. That's what you do. You push yourself. You break down the muscle tissues by pushing yourself. If you go to the gym and you're just going through the motion, you're not pushing yourself. It's like people who go for a walk and think that, well, that's going to help me get fitter. Yes, it will. It will. I'm not saying it's better than sitting at home and watching TV, right? Of course. But if you go for a run, as opposed to a walk, then you've really pushed yourself, and you should see improvements a lot quicker. So the idea of going to the gym is to break down muscle tissues, damage the muscle tissues, and once you've done that, you repair it by resting and consuming the right food. Going to the gym doesn't give you the excuse to then. It's not an excuse to then go to KFC or Pizza Hut. That would be counterproductive, I would say. So try and get some good nutrition after you've trained. And we moved on to this single arm press. This is a great exercise, again, executed on the Smith machine. I wouldn't suggest you do this using dumbbells because you're not stabilized, but this is a great isolation exercise for the traps on the Smith machine. Single arm presses. So you don't have to go too heavy on this. I believe I'm only using 5 kg plates per side. You'd find on the Smith machine, the barbell probably weighs around 20 kilos anyway, so you don't have to go too heavy. You do not have to go too heavy doing this exercise. Single arm isolation shoulder presses. It's a great exercise for your traps, your delts. It just about hits every part of your shoulders, to be honest. Even you'd find your arm, obviously, arms comes into it as well when you're doing this movement, but predominantly it's a shoulder exercise that you don't see many people doing at the gym. So that's that's one for you to, that's a unique one for you, I suppose, from me to you. Now, the hands or the arm that's not working, use it to stabilize yourself. Because like you see, I'm not using a backrest here. There is no backrest. I'm not using a bench. I suppose you can do that. It makes it a little more awkward on the Smith machine by using a bench and using a backrest on the bench. But I'm not using. I don't think it's necessary. Once you stabilize yourself, you don't have to go too heavy. Like I said, the weight is not overly heavy, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about your lower back. I think the only time you should worry about that is if you start going stupidly heavy, which I don't think you need to do on this exercise. It doesn't allow for it anyway because it feels so heavy. Anyway, with just 5 kgs aside. So you don't need to really go overly heavy on this, which brings your back into it and could potentially cause you an injury because there is no back support here. Like I say, if you do decide to do it another way and go really heavy, then maybe you could adjust the bench as necessary, and use the bench at the back of the bench as support. But I don't think you need to do that. Just sitting on the bench as I'm doing here and pressing. In fact, you'd find that most people I've done this exercise. You don't even need to put plates on the bar. You just use the bar itself for this exercise. It's all strength dependent, of course. Always make sure you stabilize yourself here. You can see the non-working arm. I'm using it to hold on to the side. Previously, I was holding on to the bench itself. But you could just about see here me holding on to the Smith machine, the side of the Smith machine itself. So yeah, this make sure you stabilize yourself doing this. This session was yesterday, and I can tell you now I'm feeling it in my traps right now. And I think this exercise played a huge part in it. And you could just about make me out here. The light was a bit bright in the gym. But I finish off, as I typically do, on shoulder days, on my shoulder session, on pull-ups. Again, 4 sets of 10 is what I just about managed. I was extremely fatigued by the time I got to this, but I did 4 sets of 10 in the end. If you're doing this like you are at the start of your session, if the shoulder, if you pull-ups feel as easy as it would do when you start your session, at the end of your shoulder session, then I'm telling you now, you haven't worked hard enough. You haven't worked hard enough. So up your game. And it was a shoulder and bicep day, of course. So I jumped onto these bicep curls, as you can see here. You may have seen this on my previous video. Now, you may just look, oh, he's just doing seated bicep curls. But if you look at how I've angled in my arms here, it's not, your arm doesn't fall naturally, your arm does fall naturally outward, if that makes any sense. With this exercise, you have to make an effort to turn your arms inwards towards, almost like your fist should be facing your knees as you do the curl. And that way, you really put the strains on your biceps. It is a seated bicep curl after all. I credit this particular exercise for building my bicep. I use it quite a lot. And I think you would agree, I've got fairly decent biceps. So yeah, this is one for you to always add to your bicep days. You could add it to every bicep session. It's a great great exercise for building your biceps. Again, I didn't do drop sets. Sometimes I do drop sets when I do these. I didn't do drop sets today. I stuck to, I can't even remember what the weight was. You probably could see it here. I believe I started off with 18 or 20, then I dropped it down to 16 kgs, which is more than enough to feel that burn in the biceps. So you don't need to, I mean, you can go, listen, I don't saying don't go heavy. You can't go as heavy as you want, but 16 kgs here was more than enough just to really feel that burn in the bicep. This is one of those exercises that you can't really miss with it. You cannot really miss with this exercise. It's a great, great exercise, like I say. You can see better here of how I angle in my biceps rather than the way it will fall naturally to really feel that burn at the peak of the biceps. And that's all I did for biceps in the end. Like I said, I did about 4 sets. I believe I did 10 a side or something like that. But yeah, and that was pretty much the end of my session. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you learned something today. I hope you keep pushing, stay consistent, rest, sleep, eat, repeat, and you shall see the goals that you so desire. Until next time, see you guys in the next video. Keep training hard as usual. God bless. Take care. Peace.